Superman saves a squirrel, gets beat up by Ultraman, flirts with Lois, hangs out with robots, and still finds time to buy street food. This is a Superman movie we've all been waiting for. And no, it's not woke. It's just not made for heartless algorithm goblins. So let's talk about it. Hey everyone, it's Wes from Atomic Cult Media, where we deep dive into weird, wild, and wonderful in film. And today I'm reviewing Superman, a comic book movie that actually remembers that it's a comic book. Superman drops us into a fully formed DC universe. Metahumans are public knowledge, heroes are unionized, and Clark Kent is balancing journalism, truth, and justice. Along the way, he fights Ultraman, tussles with Luthor, and teams up with the hilariously chaotic Justice Gang. But more importantly, he finds his place in a world that thinks kindness is cringe. Now, I want to be honest, I've always been more geared towards X-Men and Batman growing up. I grew up on brooding billionaires and mutants yelling about civil rights. When I was getting into comic books when I was very young, this is like the grim dark era of comics, with Frank Miller making The Dark Knight Returns and basically making Superman a lackey to Ronald Reagan. And pretty much the most interesting thing that happened to Superman when I was reading comics was when he died. But since then, in my adult years, I have read some stories like All-Star Superman that kind of brought me around to who Superman really was. Corenswet, I think, is a great Superman, and Brosnahan is a fantastic Lois, and they have great chemistry. Corenswet has like this dad energy and sort of like a golden retriever with optimism. He's the Superman you want helping you. Brosnahan as Lois Lane is fearless, witty, and probably emotionally scarred from working in print media in 2025. I can't sing her praises enough. She definitely has the Margot Kidder energy, who I think was not praised enough for her Lois Lane. And we always hear about Christopher Reeve. Christopher Reeve was a fantastic Superman, but Kidder's Lois Lane was phenomenal, even though she wasn't treated that way writing-wise. Brosnahan gives that same energy. Nicholas Hoult is the definitive Lex Luthor, a smirking tech bro sociopath who treats Superman like a PR nightmare he can't destroy. And I thought the Justice Gang was fantastic. They bring a lot of edge and levity. Think of the Seven from The Boys, but not quite as psychopathic. The standout for me is Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific. He steals the scene left and right. I think he's like the MVP of the movie. He's like if Batman and Jeff Goldblum had a baby, and that baby majored in quantic ethics. Nathan Fillion brings some wild energy. I think he's doing a Woody Harrelson impression. So just think of Woody Harrelson, who got a power ring and a bowl haircut. And Isabella Merced as Hawk Girl, sort of like a reincarnated space hawk with trauma and a mace. And she's pretty terrifying with that screech that she does when she's fighting people. Now, this is a comic book movie. Much like how I felt watching Raimi's Spider-Man. It leans hard into the camp, but under the surface, there's a lot of humanity to it. And not like the weird Snyder version where he's a burdened Christ-like figure. That's not the movie we need right now. I think we're at like peak cynicism right now, and this is the type of film that we need. And I think James Gunn rebooted this in a pretty brilliant way. He's dropping Superman, who just wants to do good, into a world that's like The Boys. And he's trying to do these heroic things in a complex world. And that's illustrated beautifully in the 10-minute interview with Superman Lois Lane, one of the best scenes of the movie, in my opinion. Hell, he goes out of his way to save a squirrel in the middle of a fight. There are some pacing issues. Not really in a slow sense. This movie just hits you over and over, fight scene after fight scene. But I heard it was structured like day by day, and you could tell it was a little edited that way, especially in the beginning. But I think it comes around, and if you're taking kids to see this, I mean, they're not going to be bored at all. And that's it. There's not a whole lot of plot in this. It is very much action set piece, action set piece, action set piece with a little bit of plot connecting it all together, which isn't a bad thing, especially if you're thinking about this setting up its own sort of universe. And there are a lot of characters in this, and it might be overwhelming for a lot of people, or maybe frustrating because you're not learning about these characters in a 2-hour movie, but you do get characterizations of them. And for me, that's not a negative. They're compelling with a lot of meat on the bone to explore in future projects. I hope to see Mr. Terrific in future projects. And I'm not going to go into spoilers. I might do a video later talking about spoilers, but there is a change to Superman's origin that is sort of like a midway plot twist in the movie, and I don't think it's going to land with a lot of people. Personally, I don't mind. Without giving anything away, it sort of borrows from another comic book property, but I do think it has potential for future stories and future sequels with Superman. And personally, I felt like we could have used more time with the Daily Planet and the Kent family for more of a balance to the story. And I love how this leaned into the comic book aspect of Superman. I love the over-the-top action where he's flying around and everything's getting slammed down and the bright colors, but there is one scene where it's like an interdimensional escape scene which didn't exactly land for me. It looked very video gamey and very CGI heavy, but those are mostly all my negatives I could say about Superman 2025. But overall, I'd give Superman 2025 a 4.5 out of 5. Watching this, I felt like it's the birth of the DCU, similar to how I felt watching Batman Begins and the Avengers in the theater. It definitely left me wanting more, which isn't a bad thing. I was satisfied, I was wanting more. And it's funny and earnest. And they made Superman funny, corny, and kind of lovable. The movie might be a little overstuffed and a little bit clunky, but it's a ton of fun. And like I said before, it feels like we're at peak cynicism, but this is the movie we need right now. And this is just a bit of a rant. There's a controversy about this being about being a good person and an immigrant from another planet and being too woke. And as I see it, if you're truly offended by these things, then you can kind of just go yourself. The wokest comic book stories I read growing up, primarily X-Men or Superman, were some of the best comic book stories I've ever read. X-Men were civil rights. Superman was an immigrant icon. Roger Ebert once said that movies were an empathy machine. So if you lack any sort of empathy, then why the would I listen to your opinion on movies? And just to be clear, you can dislike this movie on other terms. It might just not be for you. You might prefer the Snyder version. But if this is the thing you hate about it, it says a lot more about you than it does the movie. But what did you think of Superman? What do you think about the controversy surrounding Superman? Are you looking forward to the DCU? Has it reinvigorated your anticipation for comic book movies? Let me know down in the comments below. Subscribe if you believe Truth and Justice deserves more screen time. And stay tuned, I'm probably doing like a sort of ending explain thing for Superman. We'll see how it goes. And check out the playlist below for other movie reviews. And I'll see you later.